Welcome back everyone. So here's where we left it in the last video. We have our headers and the data that's being fed into the stock list rendered to the screen, but it still doesn't look very pretty. So we want to focus on getting this look that we have in our sketch. So let's go back to our editor and we'll get started styling these elements. So first of all, I want to grab the div that contains the list headers, and I want to do a little bit work on the unordered list as well. So we'll go to stock list module.css. We'll put in list headers and we'll say display flex. And then we'll grab the stock list and we'll say margin 0 and padding 0. And we'll say list style type none. And I also think I want to take the entire content area. So I want to take this area underneath the header and give it a padding. And in order to do that, I need to add another div. So I'm going to add a div around here that says styles dot list container, and I'll wrap that around here. And let's also go back to app module CSS and remove our height property from dashboard content, because that was just to kind of give us something visual to work with, but we don't need it anymore, and we want it to be more dynamic now so that it doesn't cut off when the list expands. All right, so I want to go back to the editor and I want to go to stock list and grab the new list container, and in the CSS file we'll give it a padding of 20 pixels, and we'll see that we get a sort of a inset on the content area here. All right, so let's start focusing on lining up the headers and the list items. So I'm going to take the list item and I'm also going to give that a flex property. So now we have this, and I want to give the header, let's see, the list headers color of 1D, 1D, 1D. So list headers div see. I'm just gonna see if, all right, so I can give them a color and it just doesn't look any different than it did before. Okay, so we're gonna give the list items a slightly lighter color. So I'm going to go to the list item here instead, and I'm gonna say we're gonna give it a 585858, and that gives us a slightly lighter color. So let's continue working on this. We want the list items to have a margin of maybe 10 pixels on the top and bottom, and Yeah, I think maybe even 12. Let's see what that looks like. All right, and let's get started building getting the spacing right. So we want the spacing to be exactly the same for every item. And that's because we want the headers to always be lining up with the values here. So let's go ahead and we'll take the header of the list item name, and we'll also grab the name header and we'll give it a width of 150 pixels. And then we'll take the list item ticker and the ticker header and we'll give it a width of 50 pixels. Maybe increase that to 75, maybe even 80. So if we go back, you can see we're getting some space between the different headers, and we're getting it to line up with our data. So that's great. So let's continue. We'll take the list item bid and the bid header, and we'll also take the list item ask and the ask header, and we'll give it a width of 100 pixels. And I think we'll also actually do the same with these. So we'll have one big happy family here. And then we are going to grab the list item DPS and the DPS header, and reassign width 75. Maybe we'll give that 120 actually, and we'll say the same for, let's see, 150. And we'll say dividend per 1,000 spent, we'll also have that. And DPS list item, if I can copy correctly. So let's say 175 on those. And then I'm just doing adjustments as I go along here, but we'll see in the end what we end up with. We can take a look now, and we can see that we're kind of getting the look that we want, and so we only need to fix the PE now, and we should be good to go with our list. So let's go and grab the list item PE and the PE header, and we'll give it a width of 75 pixels. And if we now go back, I think I am pretty happy with this list. Might do some adjustments on the dividend per share and dividend per thousand spent because their headers are quite large, and I think we could do some adjustments just by shortening the header name. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. So let's go ahead and round off there, and then in the next video we'll implement some slight changes. We'll add the icon, and we'll look at getting the functions up and running for calculating the dividend per share and getting the dividend per thousand spent and the stock PE rating. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.